Hello and welcome into my 15-year redraw. So before we get too far into this, I will say that I have been struggling with my new camera for recording, so I know the quality is a little bit grainy and I had to do a lot of color adjusting with it as we went along, so I do apologize for that, but I do think a majority of the piece you can see what I was trying to do. So I haven't been on YouTube for a while, at least not as a creator, because life got crazy. I had way too much going on, and recording for YouTube on top of everything else just wasn't working. I think I have figured out a pretty decent balance for doing YouTube and all of the other projects that I'm doing, including streaming. So I'm optimistic that this time around we're gonna make things work. So to start with this particular piece, the original that I did was in 2005, right before I graduated from high school. And I remember that at that time, I was incredibly proud of that piece. I remember showing it off to everybody and being super excited for what I was able to do with colored pencils at that time. Now for the redraw, I decided to not do colored pencil, and most of the decision on that was just for time. Unfortunately, when it comes to doing colored pencils take a lot longer to do, and I wanted to have this piece recorded and finished and ready to go sooner than, 8 hours. I believe the current piece took me about 4 hours to get done, and I did it with Copics. I also put a background on it where there wasn't a background on the original, but I wanted to make it look more cohesive as a piece, and number one way to make a piece look better is to actually put a background on it, for the most part. So one thing I will definitely say is that over the last 15 years, my process has changed a lot. Years of doing form and anatomy studies and life drawings and drawing from reference, which back when I was in high school wasn't particularly looked positively upon in the art communities I was in back in them DeviantArt days. But now I look at a lot more references. I build up the body from the sketch way differently than I did when I was a teenager. And years of practice and honing your craft is bound to have a change, right? Personally, I'm incredibly proud of how this piece has turned out and how much work I've put in to better my craft. And I know I still have a long way to go with it, but I'm really excited with how far this has taken me. And, other ways that my process changed was, I learned how to use the mediums I work with. As I said, with the old piece, I was really excited because I really liked colored pencils, but I didn't really know how to use them appropriately. And I will say that in order to get the looks that I want, I know what mediums I need to use. And that was something that I did not have the knowledge of back when I was barely 18. For instance, I think I could do a really nice colored pencil piece with this line art, but I figured it would suit better for how I wanted the colors to work, to do it with Copics, especially with, say, the clouds in the background and the way that I was able to blend them together. I push my Copics to their absolute fucking limit when it comes to blending, which I'm sure you guys will see throughout most of this video, especially with the clouds and also with her skin tone. But I have also figured out, to a basic extent, how much time things are going to take me, at least in terms of one medium versus another, where this piece took me about, I would say, 4 to 4.5 hours to do. It would probably have taken me at least 8 to 10 hours to finish as a colored pencil piece because of the way the medium works and the way that I work with it. Not to say that it wouldn't have been really cool, but I know where my limitations with my time are, so I have to be very cognizant of that when I'm working on artwork, especially now that I'm in my 30s, and unfortunately, art is not my number one gig, so I gotta take care of what I gotta take care of first. But another thing that I have learned a lot about in the years that I have been doing artwork is how to work with the aesthetics that I want in a piece. Like for this one, I knew, she was supposed to be kind of a pixie-ish space girl kind of theme, and I wanted to work with that. And when I was 18, it was not something that I was particularly good at. I thought I was doing great, but I would definitely say that I feel like you get an entirely different vibe from this particular piece, where the wonder and excitement that was supposed to be on her face in the original, I think it's a little bit more there in this redraw. But I also approach my art much differently than I did back in my 20s and in my late teens, because like I said earlier, I don't have a lot of time. So the time that I have to use very wisely. And, for a majority of the day, I am taking care of kids and getting their schooling done, because of course we're doing at-home schooling for the moment, because, the end of the damn world at this point. But, the moments that I can go back and forth in between doing my artwork and doing my job as a live-in nanny makes it to where, the work that I do, I get to be more poignant with it, and I get to be more deliberate. And I believe that has helped me out a lot in terms of, number one, getting artwork out there, and number two, just finishing. And another thing that's helped me a lot with getting work finished and getting things finally put together would be the fact that I started streaming on Twitch. And I started streaming on Twitch because a good friend of mine essentially bullied me into doing it with her. And I ended up falling absolutely in love with being on Twitch as a streamer, as an art streamer. And it helped me to actually take accountability for what I needed to get done and actually get things done. I will say that since I started streaming on Twitch, I have been far more productive. And now that I have a new computer and I have, more tools in order to get things done the way I need to get them done, I'm really excited about the fact that, I should have a little bit of time to do YouTube recordings and things like that, and get to do just little things that I've always wanted to do that I haven't had a chance because of time constraints. And I'm excited about that. And currently we are working on the hair, and I will say probably the hair out of all of the pieces that I do of a piece when it comes to drawing a character, the hair is generally the part that I do the least amount of actual blending on. But I think it ends up turning out pretty cool. And now we're getting into the skin, and that's another major change from 15 years ago, as I have gotten a lot better at doing more realistic and essentially fuller skin tones. Like, from the beginning, I'm sure you guys saw that I was putting in the initial shadows with blue instead of, a normal skin-toned marker. And what that ended up helping me do was it helped me get a good backlight on the areas that I wanted to be kind of backlit with more of a subdued hue. And I think you can see a little bit of where that's starting to work out. It isn't until I start going into the next color that it starts doing better work on that. The other thing I will say is, like, especially with Copics, I blend them to their limit. But the cool thing about, Copics is the fact that you can blend them as far as I do. And what I usually do is I will go with a base color, then move to the initial shadow, the regular shadows, the deep shadow, and then move back into the lights in order to blend it properly, which is what I'm doing right here with the cheek that I slowed down for everybody to see. Move through the colors, and it helps achieve a more blended and painterly look. And honestly, as I said, that's one of my favorite parts about alcohol-based markers and Copics in particular, is the fact that you have the ability to blend them the way that I like to. So, it's super exciting. But I really do like how this piece turned out. And like I said before, I do think I still have plenty to learn. But I've really appreciated getting to see how much I've grown since I thought I was everything in a bag of chips back when I was in high school. And, just shows that growth is possible no matter how old you are, and that's the cool part. Is a lot of this growing I've done in the last 2 years. And that's pretty dang awesome, I think. But another thing that I learned to do, especially since I was using Pigma brush pens instead of the usual Copic multi-liners with this particular piece, was with the Pigma brush pens, if you put the Copics on them when they are fresh, it bleeds a lot. So I've learned to do the final inks after I've put the colors in, at least with that particular brush pen, just because I guess it doesn't sit into the page quite like Copic multi-liners or Sakura pens do. So, but I like it. Like I said, I think this piece turned out really cool. I've learned a lot in the last 15 years. I'm still learning even more, and I'm excited to see where the next 15 years take me. So for any of you geezers like me, what have you guys learned about art since high school? I'm always fascinated to see what other people have picked up from what it was they did back in their youth and how much their perspective has changed as they've aged. But that should be about it for this video. If you guys want to follow me here, like, subscribe, yada yada yada. I also stream on Twitch. I stream Thursday through Sundays in the evenings, Pacific Standard Time. I am also on Instagram. I'm never on Twitter, but I have a Twitter. If you want to follow me on all of that, or if you would like to purchase a print or the original of this piece, they will be available up on Etsy. All the links will be down in the description below. Thank you so much, you guys, for going on this little journey with me, and I will hopefully see you guys again soon. Bye!